welcome back. Today's video is going to look at male victims of domestic abuse and the awful truth that goes alongside the rhetoric that is common out there in the world at the moment. And I'd just like to kind of reset that balance a bit. There have been two really high profile domestic abuse cases over recent years. Obviously, we've got the Amber Heard Johhny Depp one, which went to trial, but we've also got the Arabella debusso Josh Reynolds events that went on. And both of these cases remind me of so many of the other cases that I've worked with throughout my career. So I just want to highlight some of the behaviours that we've seen, which is with Amber Heard. If you watched the trial, you'll know this. If you didn't, then take my word for it, that we saw Amber Heard make lots of accusations, but wasn't able to get people to believe her that these accusations were true. It appeared that she fabricated evidence. It appeared that she was making up stories. She was exaggerating stories, and she took no responsibility for her own part in that behaviour. Now, I know that the feminists amongst you would say, if a victim says that they are subjected to domestic abuse, then we must believe them. And I absolutely agree. But believing them is about identifying who the actual victim is, because just as male perpetrators can use the system to make the victim responsible in some way, that is also true the other way around. Women perpetrators can also make male victims look as though they're the perpetrators, but they can do it so much more easily because that's what society expects. In the Arabella debusso and Josh Reynolds case, Arabella debusso has been shown to have lied about multiple pregnancies and miscarriages, not just in her relationship with Josh, but in other relationships. She has fabricated the death of her mother on 3 different occasions. She's had 2 spells of cancer that turned out to be unreal. And she now admits that she kind of made up some of these things so as to keep Josh. And if you want to find out more about them, please do have a look. There's loads of information out there on both those situations. So I just want to look at the impact of some of the female aggression on male victims, because I think that's an underreported side of the domestic abuse conversation, really. So I just want to look at some of the data. Now, we know that statistics can be made to say whatever you want them to say, but these are consistent across both female support services as well as the male support services. And what they tell us is that 1 in 3 victims of domestic abuse are male. And 1 in 6 to 7 men, compared with 1 in 4 women, will be victims of domestic abuse in their lifetime. So women definitely are more likely to be victims, but 1 in 6 or 7 is still quite a high percentage for men. The recent survey by Mankind Service, which is a male victim service in the UK, said that half of male victims, 49%, have never told anybody that they are a victim of domestic abuse. So if half of male victims are not reporting it to anybody, not mention it to anybody, that kind of implies that the number could be a lot higher. Also, 11% of male victims have considered taking their own life as a result of the abuse they suffer, compared with only 7% of women. Now, 7% is still a lot, but the men are obviously having greater difficulties in dealing with the domestic abuse they're experiencing, and possibly they are less willing and less able to access services, which might also have an impact on that. And on average, we talk about the deaths, and we know that on average in the last 5 years, 12 men per year have been killed by their partners or ex-partners. Now, this compares to 74 women per year, so again it's lower, but that's still 12 lives are lost a year through domestic violence. So I don't think those statistics can be discounted just because the norm is to say women are victims of domestic abuse. I totally accept that There are people out there who have got mental health problems, they've got personality disorders, they may be sociopathic or psychopathic. What I disagree with is that those things have to be male traits rather than female traits. I do accept that a man punching a woman is more likely to cause serious injury or even death than a woman punching a man. A woman is much less able to restrain a man, to hold a man, to strangle a man. Those things are not things that are typically women behaviours. And what you do find is women tend to use weapons more. So there are many examples out there where women have really severely injured or even killed their partners. So what are the additional consequences to male victims who are experiencing domestic abuse? The first one is, if the police are called, the male victim is much more likely to be treated as a perpetrator and labelled as a perpetrator, which means that if they need to call the police in the future, they are going to be treated differently and not believed. It also means that if they need to report something, some concerns about their children later on after the relationship has gone, the police will look at their file and see they are a perpetrator and they are much less likely to be believed. The courts are going to be much more severe when it comes to child custody, and quite often we find male victims who lose custody with their children because they've been labelled as a perpetrator by mistake. They are much more likely to be treated harshly by social care and society generally. Now, through my life, I have seen many cases where, having unpicked the story, found out what is going on from both sides, we have been able to identify that the female was actually the perpetrator using domestic abuse rhetoric to punish her victim partner. Social care have gone along with that, and the guy has ended up losing his children. In one case, even though he had made great strides to heal from his victimhood and actually become a really good father, social care put his children in care rather than leaving them with him because they still believed he's a man, he must be the perpetrator. Shocking. Makes me so mad. Also, I've seen lots of female perpetrators of domestic abuse and violence who have been rewarded for their abuse. Because they are believed, they tend to get more of what they want. They will get the protection, they will get their desires met, and they will get a lot of support, whereas male victims tend not to because they're seen as perpetrators. I have seen too many women who have suffered horrendous acts from their male partners who are perpetrators flee to refuges where they think they're going to be safe and they think their lives are going to be calmer and they're going to be able to heal, only to find that female perpetrators are also in that refuge, and they continue to bully, they continue to victimize when they're in that refuge. We had one woman who literally hid her and her child because she was too frightened to go back into the main house, and that is appalling. So not only are we not actually helping the victim, we are victimizing them again when we don't take our time to find out what's really going on in that family. Well, that's all for today. I hope you found it interesting and thought-provoking. If you have, please do press that like button and comment in the comments box below. I would love to hear your take on this. Oh, and please don't forget to have a look on the website. See you next time.